Chapter 6, Chapter 5, The Magic School. Chapter 5, The Magic School.
You're not serious?
Rand exclaimed as the three of them came within sight of the ruins near Mount Phoebe.
It's a fixer-upper,
Ryu admitted.
Still, you can't beat the price. What, nothing?
Cat remarked sardonically.
If nobody else wanted it, there's usually a reason, you know. Feel free to keep sleeping out in the trees if you don't like it,
he offered before shouting.
Hey, guys. I'm back. So we heard,
Bao yelled back, opening the front door. The fact that it was on, at least, showed that they'd made some progress despite the heckling.
Who are the wise guys, and do they think they could do any better? Maybe we could,
Cat told him, walking up, and the two of them gave each other a once-over.
Want to make me try? Geez,
Rand groaned, starting to walk forward.
That didn't take long. Nah, it's cool.
Ryu put up a hand.
Wait for it. You kidding?
Bao asked after a moment more, grinning slightly.
You would probably just break everything. Thanks for keeping an eye on my buddy, though. He kind of needs it. Keep talking like that, and I'll break something, alright.
Cat smiled as well.
And yeah, I noticed. Wait until you hear about what he got himself into. Catch on. Bao Dogi.
He shook her hand, then added,
Please don't laugh. Rand Marks.
Rand exchanged a handshake with him.
And there's nothing to laugh about. Glad to see we're all on the same page.
Bao winced, rubbing his hand.
Come on in, you're just in time for dinner. Music to my ears.
Cat walked past him into the room, and the others followed. Bao and Nero had been hard at work. They had cleared all of the debris out, and brought in a newly carved table and chairs to replace the broken ones that had been in there before. The room was divided into areas for sleeping and eating, and a fire pit had been erected, which Nero was currently attending to, cooking a freshly caught deer.
New folks, hey.
The old man turned his head towards them.
Nice to meet ya. Nero Mani's the name, Bane the mayor's my game. Mayor, hey.
Cat chuckled.
Alright, I'm cool with that. Nice to meet you too, Mr. Mayor.
She shook his hand, then glanced over at Rand, whose eyes had gone as white as dinner plates.
What's your problem? Nero Mani.
Rand sputtered.
Wait. The architect. Hey.
Bao blinked, exchanging puzzled glances with Ryu and Cat, who shrugged.
What's this about? Heard of me, hey.
Nero cackled, not at all self-conscious.
Don't worry, kids, it's all in the past now. Legacy of a misspent youth, and all that. I haven't been law-abiding in decades. If you say so, man.
Bao gave them all a different sort of look, and they all nodded, Rand a little more slowly than the other two.
Ain't like this is the sort of place where we insist on asking questions, anyways. That's for sure.
Ryu took a seat.
Looks like you two have been busy. You should have seen it before we got here.
Bao directed that at Cat and Rand, and the latter raised his hands.
Alright,
he said placatingly.
Now that I'm in here, I can tell you've been working on it. I'm just saying, it's gonna need a lot more.
He rubbed his chin.
Of course, I can see we'll be able to do a lot more, too. How far were you guys planning on taking this? As far as we can.
Nero glanced at him.
You done any construction before, son? Had a nice little job in it lined up, before these two went and spoiled it all for me.
Rand thumbed at Ryu and Cat, who rolled their eyes in unison.
Kind of a long story, there. And how long were you planning on just hinting around the edges of it before you tell us what's been going on?
Bao asked dryly.
5 more hours,
Ryu replied.
Or as soon as dinner's ready. Your call. Start talkin', then,
Nero told them.
And grab some meat, 'cause this is about done. Alright.
Ryu gave in.
You two, join in if I get anything wrong. I headed over to Corsair, like we planned.
The story took several hours to tell, especially when Rand and Cat did start chiming in, leading to several impromptu arguments about the way things went. Nero and Bao seemed to find the entire thing highly amusing, insisting on details at several of the most interesting moments. The amusement faded when they got to August, though, and everybody was in a somewhat more somber mood when the story was done.
Sheesh.
Bao shook his head.
What a mess. And you're sure he wasn't just a monster or something? Maybe some new clan? Not a chance,
Rand told him gravely.
I'm not a follower of Saint Eva's teachings, but Mr. Braddock was right on the money about that. You could feel it, being in the same room with him. Something about him was wrong on every level. Glad I wasn't there.
Nero whistled.
So, what's the plan now? Well, that lead obviously wasn't what we were looking for,
Ryu deadpanned.
So it looks like my next order of business is to head back to hometown and see about that magic guild. Talk to Deez,
Bao suggested.
She'll help you out. That's the idea.
Ryu turned to Rand and Kat.
What about you two? Same plan as before? I sure am,
Kat said quickly.
I'm coming. I work better on the road than sticking around one place for too long. I'm going to stay here for a while, like I said,
Rand said cheerfully.
The possibilities of people looking for us aside, I'm not exactly inconspicuous, so I don't think I'd be able to infiltrate a private academy if my life depended on it.
He chuckled.
Besides, I kind of want to get this place whipped into shape now. I won't even charge you for the work I do. And we won't charge you for room and board,
Bao replied dryly.
Sounds like a plan. Listen, talk to Sylvia when you're there, too, hey? Tell her I'm still doing okay. When we left the city. Well, it could have gone better. You think?
Ryu asked sardonically.
Ooh, does somebody have a girlfriend?
Kat teased.
That's it, I'm going for a walk,
Bao muttered, heading for the door.
Oh, no you don't.
She followed him.
Come on, what's she like, hey? Spirited, ain't she?
Nero commented.
You have no idea.
Ryu chuckled.
Ever seen somebody try to chase down a wild duck? For an hour straight. Yeah, that was really something,
Rand agreed.
Keep an eye on here, hey? You two watch yourselves out there, now that I won't be around to babysit you. Stop.
Ryu covered his face.
Just stop. Now. Please. Whatever you say, boss.
Rand chuckled.
All right, Nero. What are you guys working on at the moment? Figuring out if we just want to put up a roof, or try for another story or two.
Nero glanced upward.
Why don't you come over here and take a look? I'll head out, too, then.
Ryu waved.
I'd be about as useful as a rubber plank in this conversation.
Walking out, he closed the door behind him, then sat down next to the statue of Loudon. Looking around carefully for Kat, he coughed.
So. Hear all that? I did,
Loudon confirmed.
You've had quite the adventure. No kidding.
Ryu leaned on his hands, looking up at the stars.
I'd ask you about demons, but I'm not sure I'd like the answers I'd get. Perhaps not,
Loudon agreed.
It's somewhat complicated. Perhaps it's best if you discover more by yourself. You don't think it's going to end here either, then?
Ryu asked quietly.
Do you? No,
he admitted.
We'll just have to be ready for whatever happens when it does, then. A good plan.
Loudon seemed to be smiling, despite the statue's frozen visage.
You're a wise young man, Ryu. Oh, please.
Ryu rolled his eyes.
I'm a realist. That's all.
He stood up, then paused.
You, going to be all right out here? I'm not actually a statue, you know,
Loudon said dryly.
I'll be fine, Ryu. Good.
Ryu scratched his head.
Couldn't find a statue in Corsair. I would have stopped by for a chat if I had. It's all right,
Loudon assured him.
This is more conversation than I've had in the last 100 years. I'm not going to complain. Really?
Ryu glanced back at him.
I don't suppose the reason we can hear you might have anything to do with what August was saying. I don't think you really want me to answer that question, either,
Loudon said after a long moment.
Do you? Good point.
Ryu shook his head.
And you couldn't tell me even if I wanted you to, right? Your intuition is good,
Loudon murmured.
You're correct. There's much going on here that I can't talk about, Ryu. For the moment, though. Demons won't find you, unless you find them first. August only exposed himself because he was cornered. Granted, he started it, but he was unstable. Most of them are more cautious. I'll keep that in mind,
Ryu promised.
So, does this mean Rand and Kat could hear your voice, too? I believe they would,
Lawton hedged.
Did you want to test it? Nah.
Ryu shook his head.
Let them find out for themselves. More fun that way. I'm heading back inside, then. See you around, old man. Good luck on your journey,
Lawton replied, seeming to stare up at the night sky himself. Kat and Bao came back soon after, and by mutual agreement, they all turned in then. In the morning, Kat and Ryu set out at dawn, commenting wryly on how the other three seemed content to sleep in. Mount Fubi was, as it had been on their way in, still relatively peaceful. Ryu and Kat even competed to see who could nail more goblins, the loser having to procure dinner. It put them both in a good mood when they descended the other side, enough that Ryu didn't even complain about losing. The south coast wasn't far away, and Kat was highly appreciative of any fish, even minnows.
Hey, Ryu,
she said once they were done eating.
Yeah.
He looked over, cautious. All of the cheer had suddenly vanished from her voice, and she was looking at the fire rather than at him, tail twitching idly.
Do you really have no idea who Lord Baruberry would be?
She asked quietly.
It might not be any of my business, but... August sounded like he thought you would know. I was wondering how long it would take you to ask about that,
Ryu admitted.
Rand will probably ask Bao before long. I never was much good at lying. You're better than I am,
she told him, making a face.
I'd never have been able to get away with that prank back in Corsair if Rand hadn't done most of the talking. I can follow along if somebody else takes the lead, if it's just a joke or a cover story, but actually doing it myself. I kind of suck at it. If it comes to that, you should probably handle it. I'll keep that in mind,
Ryu said, before closing his eyes.
Anyways, it's like this. When the two of us were kids, when we first met each other, we ran into a demon. August wasn't the first one I've ever seen. This guy. He crushed us like you would swat a fly. It's been 10 years since then, and I still haven't figured out why he didn't kill us. Was he like August?
Kat murmured.
Doing something in a town to get people killed? No, it was in a cave.
Ryu shook his head.
And?
He hesitated, remembering the way the demon's third eye had seemed to turn his mind inside out.
Maybe it's just because I was a kid, but I don't think this guy could have ever successfully passed for a human. No matter what shape he was in, something about him would show. August wasn't even close. If we ran into him, even now, he'd smear us just as easily. So what happened?
Kat asked eventually.
After he swatted you, I mean. Gee, thanks,
Ryu snarked, and they both laughed a little, but it sounded forced to both of them.
We woke up in the caves, and he was gone. We never found out anything about him, but... If I had to make a guess, that would be who I'd assume August was talking about. Does it bother you?
Kat asked after a moment.
Not knowing anything about that, about him. Except that he's still out there.
More. We still need more power. God needs more power. Give yourselves to our God. Pray to God. Praise God. Sacrifice your bodies and souls to God. You are destined to become God's power.
Not really,
Ryu lied, as he had to bow.
It's in the past, you know? More importantly, there's nothing I can do about it right now. Why waste time worrying? Guess so,
she agreed, but her face made it clear that she wasn't buying it.
We've all got shit in our past like that, you know? Folks like us. You let it get to you, you wind up dead in a ditch. Just keep moving, right? Right.
Ryu gave her a weary smile.
It's starting to get a little scary, how much we've got in common. And that's what scares you.
Kat joked.
A friggin' demon that might come back for another party anytime doesn't, but common ground with a cute girl does. Think you've got your priorities mixed up there, Chief. Oh, like you've never scared any of the other boys off before.
Ryu teased her back.
Not everybody takes it in stride when you say you'll break their face if they try going too fast, you know. Do I look like the kind of girl who'd go for a wimp?
She pointed out.
Fair enough.
He raised an eyebrow.
So, what does that make me, then? You.
She thought about it for a moment, smile widening.
Interesting, that's what. Well, now.
Ryu smiled as well.
I kind of like the sound of interesting. Matter of fact, you're pretty interesting yourself. Am I, now?
She murmured, sounding like she was actually purring for a moment.
Maybe you should tell me more about that. Maybe I should,
Ryu agreed, leaning closer, both their eyes fixed on each other. For a moment, there was something else in the air, something between the two of them and only them, completely separate from the rest of the world. And then a hunchback beetle the size of a chair, head and legs protruding from the mass of eggs covering the rest of its body, lunged out of the trees and crashed between the two of them.
Shit!
Both of them yelled at once, scrambling for their weapons. The fight was short and messy, neither of them was injured, but both were knocked around. It wasn't much fun when the hunchback lurched into the fire, especially since the eggs ignited while leaving the actual monster seemingly unharmed yet enraged. By mutual agreement, they didn't stop at killing it, carving and smashing the corpse up afterward and throwing the pieces away into the bushes.
Our own fault, really, letting our guard down like that,
Ryu muttered when they were done.
Should have known better, out here. Yeah,
Cat agreed, stomping on a patch of burning gore.
Guess we're lucky it wasn't worse. Guess so,
Ryu admitted, not bothering to keep the irritation out of his voice.
Well, we know better now. Right.
She started to say something else, then turned away.
Well, anyways. You want first watch tonight? Sure.
Ryu shrugged.
Turning in. Might as well.
She stretched and yawned.
Wake me when it's my turn.
Lying down, she fell asleep within the minute. Ryu watched her for a few moments more after that, then shook his head and went back to keeping an eye out for any more monsters. Their collective mood improved, slowly but surely, as they journeyed closer to hometown, and by the time they came in sight of the city, they were almost as cheerful as they had been starting out. It helped that it was a bright, sunny day when they walked through the gates. Ryu held his breath a little when he passed by the guards, but they waved him through as if nothing was wrong, which meant it probably wasn't.
Worried?
Cat elbowed him with a small grin.
Evacuation night was a bit tense,
Ryu explained with a shrug.
Looks like it's cooled down since then. So, we basically have two options here. We either head straight to the Rangers Guild, or I give you the 10-cent tour. The day's young, she replied, glancing around. Dazzle me. Sorry, we sold all the dazzle about 800 years ago,
he said lightly.
We've still got plenty of razzle, though. So I see.
She glanced over as somebody in an apartment building similar to Ryu's own emptied a trash can out a third-floor window.
Not that I'm complaining, but I heard this place was supposed to be rich and famous, or something. You're thinking of the north side,
Ryu told her.
Down here's where mugs like us belong.
He thought for a moment.
We should probably skip Count Trout's manor on the tour. The town guard might be over that mess by now, but his own hired muscle probably won't be. Makes sense,
Cat agreed.
We're starting on the rich side of town, then. All of the good taverns are on this side,
he explained.
They won't be open for a while yet, you see. I like the way you think,
she said cheerfully.
All right, then, which way? Over here.
He led her through the streets, pausing to yell at a pair of lovebirds.
Get a room, already. Was that one of the attractions?
Cat asked dryly.
Might as well have been.
He shook his head.
Those two are practically newsworthy now. Anyways, I'm sure you've noticed the roads here aren't exactly normal. No kidding.
She glanced over at a canal.
So what happens when there's a lot of rain? Everybody stays out of those.
Ryu shrugged.
You don't have to use those to get around, it's just a pain in the ass to go the long way. There's people in town who get paid to do nothing but predict when the rivers are going to change their course. Seriously?
She made a face.
Are they at least right? About half the time.
He glanced over to the left.
Anyways, over there's the local church of Saint Eva. It's even nicer than the one in Corsair.
She noticed.
And that one had August paying for it. What's up with that? Count Trout,
Ryu explained.
Just one of his and Duke Kilgore's games. Those two have been trying to show each other up since before either of us were born. Ah, the amusements of the rich,
she said in a ridiculously bad imitation of an upper-class accent, and Ryu laughed.
Pretty much. I don't feel any pressing need to go in there, do you? Not really.
She shrugged.
Hasn't been that long since I visited one. My sentiments exactly.
He led the way to the east instead.
Alrighty, then, the next stop on our tour is the world-famous Orion Magic School. I think it really is world-famous, actually. I don't know much about this stuff, but I've got a friend in there who tells me this place is pretty much the #1 for learning magic. In other words, ridiculously expensive,
Kat added.
Exactly.
Ryu nodded.
There's rumors going around that some royal families actually send their kids here to get educated. Nobody knows who they are, of course. Obviously,
Kat agreed dryly.
So how are you friends with somebody like Woe?
Both their heads snapped over to stare as a massive explosion erupted from the front of the school.
Check it out.
Ryu prompted.
Hell yes. Thought so.
They peeked around the corner and immediately noticed the cause of the disturbance. A group of thugs were hastily backing away from the front gate, with good reason. It had been blown off its hinges and now lay on the street, a smoking mass of twisted metal. They all wore green vests and leggings, and had pink scarves wrapped around their heads.
Somehow, I don't think they're students,
Kat whispered.
What's with the weird uniforms? It's familiar, but I can't place it,
Ryu murmured.
They're not local talent, though, I know that much. Hey!
One of them yelled.
What's the big idea? Oh, I'm sorry,
a female voice said from out of their line of sight, her voice light and dripping with sarcasm.
Are you hurt? You little.
One particularly stupid-looking goon growled.
You nearly kill us, then you ask if we're hurt? Shut up, Kodomo,
the first one snapped, eyes straight ahead, probably on the unseen woman.
You think you're real funny, don't you? No, I didn't mean it,
she replied, sarcasm still as broad as a barn.
But when you gentlemen got so insistent, I just lost my temper. Can you ever forgive me? That's it.
Kodomo bellowed.
I'm gonna. I said shut up, Kodomo.
The apparent leader yelled, then paused, taking a moment to compose himself. When he spoke again, his tone was persuasive.
Look, Nina. These tricks are cute and all. But our boss isn't the kind of guy who gives up easily. We can't just go back to him and tell him he ran us off, or else this is gonna get a lot uglier, for all of us.
He signaled his men, and they walked forward, towards the school and the woman.
So why not make it easy on yourself, and come along like a good girl, yo?
It was the same lightning spell that Rand and Ray had cast on August, but the difference in talent was clear. The bolts were much more precise, dancing between the thugs almost playfully, coming within inches of their faces before darting to the side. Swearing sulphurously, they backed up, and the lightning followed them, pushing them back out into the street.
This isn't funny anymore,
Nina said, steel in her voice now.
I don't take kindly to threats, boys. Come back here again, and I'm not going to be in the mood to let you off with just a warning. And that goes double for your boss. This is bad.
Another goon whined.
What should we do, Bill? GRR.
The leader waited a moment, then turned away dramatically.
Fine. But we warned you. We'll be back. Just make sure you bring a doctor with you.
Nina called mockingly behind them, and a door slammed shut.
Well,
Ryu murmured.
Wasn't that interesting? No kidding,
Kat agreed as they pulled their heads back around the corner.
Does that sort of thing happen around here a lot? Not even close.
He shook his head.
Especially not in the Magic Guild. You really don't want to mess with some of the professors that teach there. Whoever those guys were, they were stupid. But that's not all there was to it. You picked up on that too, hey?
Kat agreed.
That last line of theirs didn't sound like a bluff. They might actually have some leverage on that girl, whoever she is. This might complicate things.
Ryu glanced back at the missing gate.
I'm sure you can imagine what security around this place is like. I don't know how my buddy keeps managing to sneak out. We wouldn't have been able to get in easily even without this happening. Sorry, but I think we'd better head right over to the guild office after all. We need to get some kind of a plan going, and pronto. Got a point, there,
Kat agreed, and they turned away, walking down another street.
Man, did you see that spell, though? Whoever that was, she's got talent. No kidding,
Ryu agreed.
Made Rand's and Ray's look like amateur work by comparison. I guess a paladin would be more trained in white magic than black, but still, showing one of them up ain't exactly easy. I know, right?
She shook her head.
Makes me wish I wasn't such a meathead. Otherwise, I'd try and pick up a few tricks while we were in there. I've got about as much magical talent as a block of wood. Oak or birch?
Ryu joked.
Palm,
she said, playing along.
That is bad.
He chuckled.
I'm not much better, though. I can do a shitty bottom level healing spell, and some time magic that's supposedly inherent in the blood or something like that. That's about it. That's about it, he says,
she repeated mockingly.
I know jack and shit about magic and that's jack shit, but even I know how hard time magic is supposed to be. Use full-time magic,
Ryu clarified.
I can teleport myself about 12 hours into the future. That's it. Oh.
She frowned.
Well. Maybe if you had to kill some time. I'd rather use it at a bar.
He inclined his head towards the office.
Over here. It's around the back. The people we need to talk with should be in by now. Hey, Sylvia. Ryu.
Sylvia exclaimed from behind her desk as they walked in.
You're back. How did it go?
She trailed off as she examined Kat, seeming to pay particular attention to the fighting girl's clothing, or lack thereof.
Who's this? Kat-chan,
Ryu introduced her.
Friend of mine up in Corsair. Came down with me to help out with the hunt. Kat, this is Sylvia Stein. So you're Sylvia, hey.
Kat held out her hand cheerfully.
Bao said to tell you he's doing fine. He did he?
Sylvia murmured in a dangerous tone, not taking the handshake.
Hey,
Kat replied coolly, hand still in the air.
We going to have a problem here, sweetheart. Kat, play nice.
Ryu put a hand on her shoulder.
You could have phrased that better, you know. Hey.
Kat blinked. A moment later, her eyes widened.
Oh. No, I didn't mean it like that.
She held her hands up.
Sorry. We just stopped by the hideout on our way back from Corsair, and he made me promise I'd tell you he was okay, that's all. 3 times, even.
She grinned, rapping on Ryu's head lightly with a knuckle.
He said if he asked this bozo, he'd forget about it before he was a day out. Hey,
Ryu growled.
I see,
Sylvia murmured, a smile coming to her lips as she looked from one of them to the other.
That is true. He'd forget his own name, if nobody was there to remind him. It's nice to meet you too, Kat.
She held her hand out, and Kat shook it briskly.
Is that why he was using the wrong one the first time he met me?
Kat laughed.
This explains a lot. I'll have to remember not to let him out without somebody holding the leash from now on. It might be a good idea,
Sylvia agreed.
Are you two done?
Ryu asked crankily.
We've got a meeting we should really be having in Elder Allen's office. Is he in? Yes, I am,
Elder Allen called out as the door opened.
Come inside, all of you.
He waited until they were all inside, then sat behind his desk.
Now, then. I take it that the lead in Corsair wasn't, accurate. Speaking on fairly good authority, I'm pretty sure I didn't do it, sir,
Kat joked.
You were the fighter he went to check out?
Sylvia asked, surprised.
Is that why you're dressed so?
She left it hanging.
Nah, that's a clan thing.
Kat shrugged it off.
All this fur might look good, but if I wear too much over it, I overheat in no time. Especially since it's summer.
She waved a hand in front of her.
This place seems a bit hotter than Corsair was, too. You should see Warren males. Most of them wear even less. If we might get back on topic.
Elder Allen suggested mildly as Sylvia blushed.
What exactly happened up there, then? Details, my boy, details. All right, but you might not like them,
Ryu said grimly. As Sylvia and Elder Allen listened, their faces growing more and more shocked, he recounted the story one more time, Kat adding occasional details. When he was done, Sylvia was staring at a wall, and Elder Allen had his head in his hands.
You're very lucky, Ryu, make no mistake about that,
the old man said, his voice shaking.
If I didn't know you for an honest man, I never would have believed such a story. Demons. Ray said he was going to investigate the matter further,
Kat told him gravely.
He said that if he found anything we should know, he'd forward it here. I'll keep my eyes open in case anything comes my way, then,
Elder Allen promised. With a great deal of effort, he controlled himself and raised his head.
Now then. For better or for worse, that case is closed, so let's move on to the next one. There's still the matter of the magic school to look into, and we've found another lead on top of that. You have?
Ryu smiled.
Great. What is it? There's been a rash of burglaries in small villages in Tantar recently,
Sylvia explained, forcing herself to look back at them.
The pattern seemed to be heading for the Wing clan border, but it petered off somewhere around there. That's only natural, it's best to be cautious when crossing from one country to another. We're currently looking into if the string continues on the other side. It's not much, but it's all we've got so far. It's something to look into if this one doesn't work out either,
Ryu acknowledged.
Still, let's work on the magic school first. It's a lot closer at hand, for one thing. We've been in touch with Dee's,
Elder Allen explained.
She's not, a ranger, but she's, always been friendly to the guild, and she's, agreed to help us out. If we can find a way to get you inside the guild, she'll provide you with disguises and help you locate the girl. Think she'd be willing to fork over the disguises before we got inside?
Ryu asked, thinking quickly.
Probably,
Sylvia agreed, looking confused.
What would be the point, though? You would still have to get in. There was a little scuffle out front,
Kat explained.
Right before we came here. The front gates are completely wrecked. It'll take a few days to fix them up. If we just walked in looking like this, we wouldn't make it 10 feet, but... With the uniforms, and Dee's company, you should be, able to slip in undetected.
Elder Allen nodded.
Excellent idea.
He paused.
What kind of scuffle? Some thugs were trying to talk a student into going for a walk with them,
Ryu said shortly.
She persuaded them to drop the idea. Didn't look like they were keen on keeping it dropped for long, though. We didn't see who it was, but her name was Nina. Ring any bells? I don't recall Dee's ever giving us, any information on a, student by that name.
Elder Allen shook his head, and Sylvia did the same.
We'll look into it, however. Local muscle. Didn't look like it.
Kat made a face.
They were all wearing the same shit. Green, with pink scarves around their heads. The Joker gang.
Sylvia's eyes widened.
They're moving in down here. That's who it was.
Ryu pounded a fist on his palm.
I knew I recognized those outfits, but I couldn't think of where from. The Jokers. That's not good. They're supposed to be based around Western Tantar. I hadn't heard that they were expanding,
Elder Allen murmured.
Perhaps the rumors of Count Trout's involvement in organized crime, are more than simple speculation. Not just him,
Kat growled.
Word on the street in Corsair was that August was paying them off, too. With both of them shelling out cash, they could have enough to start expanding their operations, all right. I'll put our best men on this right, away,
Elder Allen decided, eyes dark.
If those clowns think they'll be, able to simply march in, and start fooling, around in my town, they'll be learning, an entirely different lesson than the ones they teach, at the magic school. Thank you for bringing this to me. We're with you there.
Ryu stood up.
You'll get a message to Dee's? She might be in the bars tonight, but I don't want to bet the farm on that. I'll start composing it right away,
Sylvia promised.
I'm sure she'll agree to this plan. Simple visual identification should be enough for now,
Elder Allen told them.
Find out if this girl is the one, but take no further, action. If it's her, we'll be, able to, arrange for her capture. And if it's not, we're off to India.
Kat nodded.
Sounds like a plan. We'll get out of your hair, then.
Ryu opened the door.
Thanks again, both of you. Stay in touch,
Sylvia told him.
And good luck. Nice girl,
Kat said once they were back on the streets.
Her Enbao, hey. She's playing hard to get, but she's got it just as bad for him as he does for her,
Ryu agreed.
It's for the best. Knowing Bao, if she had made it too easy, he might have lost interest. Now, though, he's hooked. Won't be too long after we clear his name that she lands him. Gee, aren't we cynical today?
Kat teased.
You disagreeing?
He asked archly.
Nah, sounds about right.
She shrugged.
He'll probably enjoy it, too. Anyways.
She rubbed her hands together.
I believe we've got a tour to get back to, yeah? Including some of the local bars. Well, since you asked so nicely.
He inclined his head and did his best snooty noble voice.
Shall we, milady? Oh, by all means, good sir,
she said in the same tone, then laughed. The rest of the day passed fairly quickly, as Ryu gave her the 10 zenny tour of the mansions of the rich and famous, followed by the recommended tavern crawl, which they both found vastly more interesting. By the time they made their way back to Ryu's apartment, they had both had several drinks, and were helping each other stay upright.
Hey,
Kat said as they slipped in through the back door.
You do have more than one bed, right? I ain't that kind of girl. What do you take me for?
Ryu told her.
You can use Bo's. He ain't, right now. Sheets are clean and everything. Classy, aren't ya?
She started to knuckle his hair, then froze as a door opened and Martha glanced out.
Crap. Evening, Martha,
Ryu said slowly.
This isn't what it looks like. I know.
She nodded calmly.
Sylvia's already told me. I'd offer you a separate room for the night, young lady, but we're full up. That's all right, this guy's okay.
Kat thumbed at Ryu.
Been sleeping on the road for a couple weeks now and he hasn't tried anything. Well, aren't you a gentleman, Ryu?
Martha glanced at him.
All right, I'll allow it. But only for a couple nights, mind? I know better, but I don't want anybody who sees to get the wrong idea about this place. We won't be staying long,
Ryu promised.
How much rent do I owe you? Don't you worry about that.
Martha shook her head.
Duke Kilgore came by, and said he'd cover it for as long as you were working for him. I don't know all the details there, and I don't want to know.
She hesitated.
Sylvia told me the news about how Bo's doing, too. Give that boy my best, you hear? Tell him there's a lot of folk here who know he ain't guilty. We're all waiting for him to clear his name. That's what we're working on,
Kat told her.
We'll find the real crook, ma'am. Count on it. I intend to.
She smiled.
Have a nice night, here.
With that, she closed her door again.
Phew.
Ryu exhaled.
That could have gone a lot worse. No kidding,
Kat agreed.
Let's get some sleep, hey. Yeah, okay.
He led the way up to their room, not bothering to light the candle.
It ain't much, but it's home, for now.
He paused thoughtfully.
You know, if we're moving into those ruins permanently, maybe I should haul all our stuff down there. Later,
Kat advised.
We're busy right now. Besides, if Kilgore's paying the rent, you've got pretty much free lodging here. Don't go throwing that away too quick.
She glanced drunkenly down at Bo's bed.
This one mine. Yeah.
Ryu nodded.
Good thinking. I ain't just a pretty face, you know.
Yawning, she moved like lightning and gave Ryu a quick hug. Her skin was softer than he had expected, but he could still feel the strength in her arms as well. Her seemingly slim muscles were like steel cables. It was a surprisingly delicate embrace, one he knew that was not out of choice but of necessity, and it told him more about the violent girl with the deliberately cheerful smile than any words ever could.
Night, Ryu.
Before his brain could work out a response to that, she had leaped into Bo's bed and was out like a light. Shaking his head, he climbed into his own bed and was soon asleep as well. His usual nightmares of the single golden eye and the deep, subtle voice inside his mind were rudely interrupted the next morning by a loud banging on the door. Growling, he attempted to ignore it, but that just made it grow even louder.
All right, Ryu, we can do this 2 ways,
Dees shouted from the other side eventually.
The easy way is, you open this door. I don't think I have to tell you what the hard way is. 60 seconds to decide. Who the hell?
Kat asked groggily, raising her head from the pillow, then clutching it.
Ow. Our way in, unfortunately,
Ryu muttered, flopping out of bed.
I'd better get it. What's the hard way?
She asked, swinging her legs over the side of her bed and sitting up.
Knocking it down. I wish.
Ryu shook his head.
Fireball. Oh.
She thought about that for a moment.
Might wanna hurry up. Yeah.
Unlocking the door, he opened it and glared at Dees.
All right, what time of the morning do you call this? Prime time to sneak in,
she replied, throwing a bundle of clothing at him.
Security's lowest from 6 to 8, especially in the halls. If you want minimum risk, now's the time for it. Oh. Great.
Ryu examined his present.
Uniforms. Yup.
She peered over his shoulder.
Good thing for you, Sylvia told me you were bringing a sidekick along. Hope it fits. Okay, you're forgiven.
Ryu threw Kat's uniform at her, and she caught it with one hand, still holding her head with the other.
Says you,
she growled.
My head. I've got something that'll help you with that, once you're dressed,
Dees offered.
Tastes like you're drinking out of a cesspool, but it works. Changed my mind.
She smiled weakly.
You're okay in my book. Well.
This was directed at Ryu, along with a raised eyebrow.
Well, what?
He replied, then paused.
Oh. Right. You can go first.
Stepping out, he closed the door behind him.
Real smooth,
Dees said.
Shut up,
he told her flatly.
I was going to ask just what your relationship with her was, but that answers that.
She smirked.
For now, anyways. You're in a good mood,
he said sourly.
What happened?
Duh. She made a rude noise.
The gate's down. Makes it even easier than normal to sneak out of there. You had good timing, it'd be a pain in the ass to get you two over the wall. I've done worse,
Kat said, opening the door in time to hear the last part of that sentence. Compared to her usual outfit, the fancy, dark orange uniform was an odd look on her, especially since the skirt completely concealed her tail.
Alright, I feel like an idiot, but we do what we gotta. Not bad,
Ryu joked, then ducked under her punch and went in the room, chuckling. The male uniform had leggings instead of a skirt, but otherwise it was more or less identical. Once he had changed, he came back out to find Kat leaning against a wall, face pale, while Dee slipped a tiny silver bottle back up her sleeve.
That's awful,
Kat moaned.
Give it a few minutes,
Ryu told her.
If you're that bad off, it really does work. You remember,
Dees noted.
Care for a hit yourself? No thanks.
He shuddered.
Last time I had some of that, I could still taste it a week later. I didn't have as much to drink as she did. Lies,
Kat said, eyeing him.
Wow. You look even more ridiculous in that than I do. That's pretty impressive, then,
he retorted.
Just don't punch out any of the actual students, okay? We can talk about it more on the way there.
Dees shook her head.
Come on, the sooner we get in there, the fewer people will be up to notice just how out of place you two are.
She led the way down the stairs, and the other two followed her.
So, what's the story, here? How'd you two meet up? Oh, you know how it goes.
Ryu shrugged, giving Kat a look as they left the building. Dees was a friend, but friends didn't get friends involved in bad business if they didn't have to.
Got in a fight, got in another on the same side, had to get out of town in a hurry, decided to stick together for a while. Nothing out of the ordinary. That's so.
Dees looked skeptical.
And I don't suppose you could possibly be that infamous fighter a friend of mine who just came back from Corsair told me about. Not anymore, I ain't,
Kat answered easily.
Especially not if the authorities come asking about the manager who tried to get me killed. Just between you and me, though, it's not a bad gig as long as nothing like that happens. Don't think it would be my thing, but you never know,
Dees said lightly.
I'll keep it in mind, just in case. How about you?
Kat glanced between them, a smirk playing about her lips.
Seems like you two VE known each other for a while. Just friends, or? You didn't tell her about our romantic evening at the circus the night Bao was framed.
Dees feigned shock.
Ryu. You're hilarious,
Ryu lied with a straight face.
It was a setup. Bao and Sylvia. I'm pretty sure I'm not her type, and I'm definitely not crazy enough to try and find out. Don't be too sure,
she said, voice low and sultry.
Stall her,
Ryu told Kat.
I'm gonna run for it. I saw what she did to the last guy she talked like that to. What did he do?
Kat asked, laughing.
Grabbed something he really shouldn't have.
Dees shrugged, reverting to normal.
He regretted it. Oh.
Kat thought about that for a moment.
Good. All right, we're here.
Dees lowered her voice as they rounded the corner.
Keep quiet until we're inside, and act casual. Try to look like you belong here. Pretend you just won a scholarship.
They proceeded through where the gate had been, past a couple of town guardsmen who didn't even look up. The staff member reading a book by the door gave them was more alert, giving them a quick glance, but he returned to his reading without any reaction.
We clear.
Kat whispered once they were past. The hall was tall and wide, with tiled floor and paneled walls, paintings and statues all over the place. There were no windows, but dozens of doors on both sides, most of them closed. At the end of the hall, a double staircase spiraled upward. Students walked back and forth, chatting idly with each other, one or two teachers watching them for any signs of trouble.
For the moment,
Dees replied.
Let's try not to do anything stupid to ruin that. What's this thief look like, anyways? Sylvia didn't tell you.
Ryu asked quietly.
A girl with black wings. Wait, what?
Dees stopped dead in her tracks like a Windian.
I didn't get that good a look at her,
Ryu explained.
But do you know of any other clan with wings? No, I don't,
Dees agreed, looking troubled.
None that are still around these days, at any rate. Shit. This isn't good. Why not?
Kat asked, baffled.
Black wings aren't exactly common, are they? No, they're not.
She shook her head.
That's the problem. There's several wing clans women here, but only one of them has black wings. My roommate, Nina. Wait, Nina.
Ryu blurted out, then winced as several heads turned to look at them, and lowered his voice.
The same one who busted the gate. Yeah.
Dee's frown deepened.
You heard about that, hey? Saw it happen, but didn't see her,
Kat explained, eyes narrowed.
This isn't looking good, people. The jokers were trying to talk her into coming with them. If all they wanted was a good black mage, there are far easier ways to recruit one. They wanted her specifically. If she was a talented burglar on top of that. I just can't see it,
Dees argued.
She's the last person in the world I'd expect to be a thief. Not because she's all that law-abiding or anything, but it just doesn't seem like something that'd interest her. She'd be bored within a week. Sometimes those are the ones you have to watch out for,
Ryu told her.
Anyways, there's an easy way to settle this. I'll be able to tell if it's her or not if I can get a good look at her. Where would she be right now? She's up in the headmaster's office,
Dees answered.
Probably about that gate. Crap, Professor Diaz. I'm supposed to be in his class right now.
Another teacher was descending the stairs, looking around sternly.
He hasn't seen me. Quick, into a classroom.
She hurried through the door on her right, and the other two followed.
We won't get caught,
Kat whispered. The classroom was packed, even in the back. They were jostled by the crowd of students, a few of which turned to glare at them but had no other reaction aside from that. The old man at the head of the classroom was droning on endlessly about evolutionary magical traits. Whatever the hell that meant, and showed no signs of noticing the intruders.
Nah, this is Professor Ent,
Dees muttered back.
He wouldn't notice if a brawl broke out in here. We'll hide for a few minutes, hope he doesn't call on either of you for anything, then head back out. Yoji's office is on the second floor. Sounds like a plan,
Ryu replied.
You.
The professor called out suddenly.
Yes, you, the young lady in the back with the red hair. Define breath in the magical sense. Shit,
Dees growled. Kat looked absolutely blank for a moment, then rallied.
Breath is a power that comes with whatever clan you are. Each clan has a different kind, humans don't have any, but they're the only ones clans can, breed with without sacrificing their breath. Some are more obvious than others, like the ones that let you transform into something else. Like the breath of water, for the Menero clan. They can turn into giant fish. Then there's the breath of air, for the Wing clan, but they don't have that anymore. And if we're talking about ones that aren't around anymore, there's the Dragon clan, and the breath of fire. Not exactly ideal terminology, but accurate nonetheless, so far,
the professor commented as everybody watched her.
Continue. Others aren't so obvious,
Kat went on, starting to sweat.
The forest clan's a pretty good example of that. The breath of wood lets them pass through trees and plants like they were in. Not there. And they can bring other people with them. The builder clan's even worse, the breath of metal. They can work with, shape it, and, well, build things with it twice as good as anybody else. Then there's the Warren clan. Breath of spirit. Increased strength, speed, and agility. Correct, although you might want to work on your linguistics,
the professor suggested.
The word you were looking for was intangible, by the way.
His eyes glittered.
Now then, unless I'm mistaken, you happen to be of the Warren clan yourself, are you not? Would you please give the class a demonstration of the breath of spirit? Sure.
Kat looked around for a moment, then saw that one of the actual students was holding a metal ruler.
Can I borrow this for a second? Thanks.
Taking it from him, she effortlessly bent it into something resembling a pretzel, and the class murmured in appreciation. Reverting it to its former state, she tossed it into the air and caught it behind her head, then spun it on one finger.
It's not exactly fancy, but if you're creative with it, you can do a lot more than just smash things like most people would think. Thanks.
She handed it back to the student.
Very good,
the professor complimented her.
Now then, class. It was 1,000 years ago that the first exception to the global laws preventing clans from interbreeding, in order to protect their breath, was passed. The first, and the last. Come on,
Dees hissed.
Nobody's paying any attention to us anymore.
It was true, the professor's mind was lost in his lecture again, and all the students were watching him. They slipped back out the door easily, and proceeded to the stairs, as she gave Kat a look.
Was that your idea of keeping inconspicuous? Lawden. What was I supposed to do?
Kat snapped.
Just go, I did the best I could, okay. Not the time, girls.
Ryu pointed out.
Let's just keep going, hey? Which way to the office?
This was directed at Dees as they climbed the stairs.
Take a left.
She shook her head.
I'm just saying, now we're on a time limit. Soon as that class ends, everybody in there's gonna start looking for you. We weren't planning on taking long anyways, right?
Kat shrugged it off.
Which door is it? Last one.
Dees led them down the hall.
Keep your voices down. We don't want old man Yoji to hear us.
The door was slightly ajar, they lined up, heads in a vertical line, to peek in.
Enough beating around the bush.
The old man behind the desk was saying. He was bent and stooped with age, a few wispy traces of his hair as white as his long beard, but his eyes were still keen.
We're both aware of the real reason I called you in here today. Do you have an explanation for your actions? I'm sorry, headmaster,
the girl standing before the desk murmured.
I shouldn't have lost my temper and used magic.
She was pale and petite, though not as short as Kat, and her hair was golden, short in front and long in the back. Her wings were large, their feathers a deep purple black, and they draped her dramatically, unmoving. She was turned partially away from the desk, allowing them to see her face. It was pale and delicate, her green eyes full of a strange, obscure sort of pain. She was the most beautiful girl Ryu had ever seen.
Well,
Kat whispered.
Is she the thief? No,
Ryu managed to murmur back, eyes still locked on the girl.
No, that's not her. That's not what she looked like at all. Shit,
Dees muttered again.
Your family has already been notified,
Yoji told her.
I'm sure they'll agree to pay for the damage to the school property. What concerns me is not that, but the events that caused it. These Joker fellows. They've been bothering you more than once recently, haven't you? They're nothing to worry about,
Nina said, voice turning cold.
Just a group of gutter leavings and barroom flotsam. The kind of garbage that infests alleyways everywhere. If they persist in causing trouble, I'll ask you for a few days off to deal with the problem permanently, and that should settle it. Girl has opinions, doesn't she?
Kat muttered.
She's not as bad as it looks,
Dees whispered back.
She's just in a bad mood right now. Nina, it's not that simple.
The headmaster closed his eyes.
But before we get into that...
His eyelids shot open again suddenly.
Perhaps we should ask those people outside the door what they want. Run for it,
Kat advised Dees quietly.
This isn't your problem. No sense in getting in trouble for it. Don't have to tell me twice.
She was already backing away quickly.
Good luck, guys. Thanks.
Ryu opened the door once she was out of eyesight from the room.
Sorry to intrude, sir. We're here on ranger business, but we saw that you were busy with something, and didn't want to interrupt.
He pulled out his badge and showed it to them.
That seems to be in order, yes.
Yoji murmured.
Nina? Is something amiss?
She had had much the same reaction Ryu had upon seeing her, and was now staring at him, eyes wide.
No.
She recovered quickly, her placid expression returning.
Well then, Mr. and Miss Ranger. How can we help you? We were coming to ask about that thing with the jokers the other day.
Ryu lied smoothly. Despite his dislike for the practice, he knew that Cat had been honest about being even worse than he was.
They're a pretty big gang in Tentar, and we've got some info that they're trying to expand into this country as well. We'd like to cut that off right here and now, if we can. A toad sticks its head too far out of the hole, chopping it off's the only thing to do, you know. Indeed.
A faint smile played around Nina's lips.
I like the way the two of you think. Thanks.
Cat grinned.
We kind of like it ourselves. So, yeah,
Ryu continued, trying to sound convincing.
Elder Allen sent us over to see if there was any information you could share with us, considering. The more of that we get, the sooner we can track him down and bust some heads,
Cat added, cracking her knuckles.
Unfortunately,
The headmaster started to say, then paused, eyes narrowing.
Well. Quite a day for unexpected visitors. We're having a real party in here, aren't we?
The thug leaning in a corner of the room replied sardonically. It was the leader of the jokers who had been bothering Nina the other day, the one named Bill, and he was flipping a knife in the air and catching it as he talked.
Nice day, ain't it, ladies and gents? Pretty slick,
Nina said tightly as they all glared at him.
You've been there for some time without us noticing, haven't you? Perhaps I've been underestimating you gentlemen.
She smiled coldly, raising a hand.
I'd better stop doing that, then. I wouldn't do that, if I were you.
Bill said, unconcerned.
See, I went and got word to my boss that the pretty girl he wanted to meet so much wasn't interested, and he got real disappointed. So much, that when he saw another pretty girl passing by, he invited her in for a visit instead. Strange thing is, she's a lot like you, Nina. Could be your little sister, by the looks of her. Even her name sounds the same. Funny old world, ain't it? Hey,
Cat growled, seeing Nina's face turn white.
What's this asshole talking about? I don't get it. Mina.
Nina whispered.
You wouldn't. You couldn't. Sure about that?
The thug produced a handful of long, dark blue hair.
Your call. This look familiar. Wait a second here.
Ryu muttered, eyes widening, as he looked from the clump of hair to Nina and back again.
You're not. Let her go.
Nina snarled suddenly, eyes blazing.
Or you'll scream for weeks before you die, I promise you. Hey, don't go burning the massacre.
The goon raised his hands, still smirking.
I ain't the one who's got her. She's back at Mount Rocco, with the rest of the boys. They're treating her nice and everything. Just like a princess, haha. At least, for now. Who knows what'll happen if the boss gets any more upset. Why, I'm gonna.
Cat started to yell.
Easy.
Ryu caught her arm.
He's right. We do anything to him, Mina pays for it. He's got everybody here over a barrel right now. It seems that way, yes.
Nina had collected herself, and her face was blank, though her eyes still glittered with cold fury.
Very well, sir. It seems I'll be accepting your invitation after all. Shall we go? That's what I like to hear.
The thug laughed.
Come on, let's go, hey? Sooner we get back to Mount Rocco, sooner you get to see your sister head back home again.
The two of them walked out, as Ryu and Cat watched, seething and helpless.
This is a very bad situation,
Yoji murmured.
No kidding.
Ryu turned back to him.
Sir, I'm going to ask for your honesty. In return, we'll both swear not to speak of this outside of this room, even to Elder Allen, without permission.
He gave the old man a direct look.
Miss Nina back there. Should we have been calling her Your Highness all this time? Hey?
Cat stared at him.
What the hell is going on here? You.
Yoji was boggling as well.
How did you know that? I've done work for Princess Mina of Windia before.
Ryu explained.
It might be a common name, but that hair is a different story. If Nina's her sister, that makes her Princess Nina, now doesn't it? And that's why the jokers are so determined to recruit her. If they've got her, they can threaten her family and expand into Windia as well. I'm afraid not.
Yoji shook his head sadly.
I can't share the details, but Nina has lived here at the Magic Guild for nearly a decade now, and Princess Nina is believed to have died when she left the country. If the Jokers try and contact her family, they'll disavow knowledge of her existence, and when they do... That does it.
Cat yelled.
I'm going to go run those assholes down and feed them their own skulls. Like the headmaster said, it's not that easy.
Ryu shot her a glance.
This is a private matter, and we're not the guard. We have no reason to get involved. Unless... Ah.
Yoji smiled briefly.
You've worked for Princess Mina before, you say. I take it that means you're both more experienced than your years would suggest. You might have heard about an incident in Corsair recently,
Ryu told him bluntly.
We were the ones who handled that, on behalf of an employer who requested anonymity. Really?
The old man blinked.
I hadn't heard the guild was involved in that at all.
He hesitated.
Elder Allen will confirm that statement. I've worked for him for a long time now.
Ryu nodded.
He'll back me up. Very well then.
Yoji steepled his hands.
The Magic School of Auria would like to hire you two for a job under the table. Specifically, we'd like you to find a missing student of ours. Should any criminals attempt to interfere with that mission, of course, it's only expected that you would deal with them accordingly. We can do that,
Cat said, slowly smiling.
We're real good at accordingly. Agreed, sir.
Ryu nodded.
And since this is a bit of an unusual situation, we'll even leave the discussion of the payment until after we come back. Would 2,000 zeni suffice?
The headmaster offered coolly. Ryu blanked out for a moment, and Cat did the same.
Yeah, that should be just fine.
He turned around quickly.
Well then. No time to waste, hey? Bit of a trip to Mount Rocco. Let's get going. Yeah.
Cat agreed, following him out.
Have a nice day, sir.
She closed the door behind her, and the two of them hurried down the hall.
Come on, let's get back and change out of these monkey suits so we can get going. You don't have to tell me twice.
Ryu shook his head as they quickly walked down the stairs.
We had better get out of here before somebody starts asking questions, now that we don't have our guide anymore. It's for the best,
Cat pointed out.
I don't think that offer would have gone so well if she had wanted to tag along. And she probably would have, after seeing that happen to her roommate. Probably,
Ryu agreed.
Can you believe the price we got on that? It is nice, isn't it?
Cat agreed as they left the school.
Especially since we were kind of offering to just do it.
She gave him a look.
For a moment there, I thought you were gonna try and negotiate for the price before we took the job. Like you do charity work often.
Ryu retorted, then shook his head.
Normally I would have, yeah. But this is pissing me off too.
That wasn't all there was to it. For some reason, he couldn't get Nina's face out of his head. This didn't seem like it would be the best thing to mention to Cat, though, for a number of reasons.
Guess that makes enough sense, she admitted. It's this way back to your place, yeah. Right,
he agreed, following her.
You've got a quick memory for streets. You kind of have to, in our line of work,
she pointed out.
True,
he said, dodging a runaway cart.
Think we should get in touch with Bao and Nero about this. Do we have any way to do that won't involve actually going there?
She asked as they reached Ryu's apartment building.
In here, right? We don't really have time to make a detour to see them in person. I don't think we want to leave Nino with those shitheads for long. Yeah,
he conceded, following her upstairs.
Alright, we'll just have to fill them in once this is all done with. That's the way it goes sometimes.
She turned to give him a smirk as they reached his room.
My turn first again. I like you, but not that much. Yet. Hey.
He bantered, leaning against the wall as she closed the door.
Don't get too excited,
she told him a few minutes later, coming back out.
We've got business to work on right now. Your turn. Yeah,
Ryu said as he went in. Changing quickly, he came back out and they took the stairs back down.
Man, it seems like I never come back here anymore without shipping out the next day. Life on the road,
Cat reminded him cheerfully. As they walked outside, however, her smile turned to a scowl as she saw the south gate. A cart collision had apparently taken place, and the entire passageway was blockaded. The screaming Menaros all over the place weren't helping.
Damn it, we ain't getting out through there. It's fine,
Ryu told her.
We'll just take the east gate.
He led her to the alley, then paused, remembering the statue of Laden there. After a moment, he kept going, hoping the old man would keep quiet.
See? Right this way. Cool.
Kat turned her head to glance at the statue.
Hey, Laden. Sorry, can't really talk right now. Got some assholes to run down. That will happen on occasion,
the statue replied.
Give them one for me, Can do.
Kat grinned at Ryu, who was staring at them both.
Well. Okay, you got me,
he eventually admitted.
Very funny, har har har. Thought you would like it.
She reached over and ruffled his hair.
Now come on. Keep up with me all day, and maybe I'll even tell you how I found out.
Before he could respond, she dashed away down the alley.
Oh, no you don't.
Ryu yelled cheerfully.
Get back here, Missy. Make me.
She laughed, and they both ran out of the city and into the woods as the noon sun continued to rise. Call her your priestina.